So good morning, Vodafone. We have 5 minutes until the start of class. So if you're here already, welcome, good morning. Have yourself a couple of blocks handy if you've got them. Make sure you've got a nice sticky mat or something to cushion your knees if you haven't got a mat at home. You can practice on a rug or on a blanket. Try and make sure you're not going to slip. Do the best you can in the circumstances. And if you're ready, waiting for the class to start, then just use these few moments to quieten the mind. So good morning, Vodafone. Welcome to class. For the benefit of my regulars and anyone else who's been practicing regularly over the last couple of months, I'm going to today introduce one or two poses that may be new to you and may be slightly more challenging. So just a word about challenging poses, so-called challenging poses, bearing in mind that these vary enormously from person to person. So if you're very flexible, you have a background of dance or gymnastics, then some poses that people really struggle with may not be challenging for you. You may easily be able to do the splits, for example. If you're very strong in the upper body, then arm balances or handstands may not be challenging for you. If you have a lot of hip flexibility or you're hypermobile, then lotus position may not be challenging for you, may not be apparently challenging for you. If you're a complete beginner, then you may think you'll never achieve any of these postures. I just want to talk for a moment about that challenge in yoga. And of course, the challenge in yoga is not really about whether we can do splits or handstands or full lotus. And be assured there are some poses in the canon that I don't imagine I will ever be able to do either. So the question is not really, can I do this pose, perform this pose? It's what happens to me when I attempt this pose, when I approach this pose. In humility, with focus, with intelligence, with mindfulness. What happens to me? What is my journey into and through the pose? And my journey if I am unable to get into the pose. That's the yoga journey. And my great sadness about lockdown is that I'm not able to watch your journey. I'm not able to see how you approach a pose, to guide you into that pose and to see how that changes from week to week. So while we're doing these classes virtually, you have to some extent, become your own teacher. Take what you've learnt in class, take it away and apply it in your own life, which is also part of the journey. Be mindful, be aware of what you're doing, be aware of your ego. Try not to let it dominate, try not to be caught up in lobha, greed for the result. It ultimately doesn't matter whether or not you can do some fantastic showcase pose. What matters is how you approach it and what you learn from it. So now let's just bring our attention to our minds. Direct your mind to your breath. Watch the ebb and flow of breath and remember that breathing is something we share. And that the breathing will help us to get into postures and will help us to deal with our unruly mind and all the distractions and the side chat that is so unhelpful to us. So use the breath to remind yourself of the flow, of the centering, of the holistic approach, the unity in what we think and do. And when you're ready, ease yourself into an all fours position, box position, hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and we'll start to move with the breath. So as you exhale, draw your belly button to your spine, drop your head and start to look towards your thighs. As you inhale, draw your chest forward, allow your belly to drop down and your tailbone to lift and maybe your chin and eye gaze to start to lift as well. Take it slowly. This is our breathing warm-up and our physical warm-up at the same time. So be mindful of the breath. Don't be in a rush. Especially if you've not long got up, if you've not long taken your body from the horizontal into the vertical, then be gentle with it. Looking down at the thighs, drawing that belly button high up. And as you inhale, draw the sternum forward, lengthen the spine. Next time you come into your cat-cow, send your weight back a little. And then when you come into your cat, send your weight forward a little. So we're just introducing a slight rocking backwards with the arch and coming forwards. That's just my shoulder popping. Sorry about that. There's always, oh, and my hip. There we go. We're slightly percussive at this time of the morning. even though I've been up for a while. It's still my body telling me there are movements that it hasn't yet attempted. So we're rolling back with a nice big arch, and we're rolling forward, bending the elbows, making that movement slightly bigger as we warm. So we're flexing and extending the spine, but we're adding in, dropping the hips back, dropping the elbows down, dropping the chest down. Next time you come back, we're going to take that into a circle. So take your hips over to one side as you draw them forward. Same thing applies. So now you might start to feel it in the outer hips. You might feel it in the waist. But just taking that movement, making it a little bit bigger, moving, starting to introduce a range of movement into our bodies. Next time you come forward, change direction. So the further you take your weight forward, the more you'll start to feel it in your triceps. Keep your elbows slightly soft here. Make sure you're not locking out. You might also feel it in the wrist. If it's too strong in the wrist, don't come quite so far forward. Listen to your body. So let's begin this journey with real mindfulness as to what the body is saying to us. And maybe yesterday it was able to do lots more than it's able to do today, or vice versa. Just be aware of that. Come to center, and then just sit back on your heels in child's pose. You can bring your brow to the mat and tuck your hands around by your heels, or you can keep your hands outstretched, whatever feels better for you. Inhale, restack the spine, come up to a kneeling position, and then come forward again into your box position. Reset the hips. Stretch your right arm up to the ceiling, draw your shoulder, oh, knee's gone as well now. Draw your shoulder blades together at the back of your body. Stretch your hand up, open the chest, and as you exhale, take that arm underneath the other, bringing your right shoulder down to the mat. From here, stretch your left arm up to the ceiling, or you can keep it on the mat. If you want to stretch it up, then maybe you can bring the back of the hand down towards your right hip, or even tuck the fingers into your right thigh. Balasana. Inhaling as you open the chest, and exhaling as you stretch a little deeper into that twist. Inhale, stretch the fingers up, press them back into the mat. Release the right arm, come back into your box position, and then exhale back into child's pose. Inhale, come forward again. Left fingertips go up to the ceiling. Open your chest to the left. Take your left shoulder under your right armpit. Stretch the hand away back so the palm comes to the floor. Shoulder comes down to the floor. Side of the head to the floor as well. You can stay here. You can stretch that right arm forward if that feels comfortable, or you can stretch it up to the ceiling. Maybe it comes behind, hand to hip, or fingertips to inner thigh. Wrap that shoulder back and down if you can, and look up if that feels comfortable. Pause the Balasana. Child's pose to the side. Inhale, stretch the fingertips up, press them into the mat, release that arm. Exhale, come into child's pose. Now the legs. Inhale, come forward. Draw your right leg all the way forward into a lunge. So soften the back foot, press the back toes into the floor, especially if you're feeling it in the back knee. That really helps to press into the foot. Inhale, lengthen the spine, lighten the fingertips, look forward and up. So this is stretching out the hip flexor on the left-hand side. Next time you exhale, press lightly into the fingertips, lift the right toes and send your weight back. So here it could be really handy to have a couple of blocks underneath your hands. You want to try and keep your hips level here. Don't let them tip over to the side. So keep drawing that right hip back in as you stretch here. Inhale, come forward into your lunge, lift your heart space. And exhale, come back. Keep the hips level if you can, flexing that front foot. Really strong stretch in the hamstrings of that right leg. Inhale, come forward again. Exhale to come back, and this time adjust the hands slightly and lengthen out your spine as much as you can before folding again. Inhale, come forward, press the hands into the mat and release that right knee back. Child's pose. Exhale. Inhale, come forward, left leg comes through, help it if you need to. Square off the hips. Lift your heart space, wrap your shoulders back and down, look forward and up. Find that stretch in your right hip flexor. Have your blocks handy here. Ready for the next move? So maybe with your blocks, you can open up a little bit more. So that's how your blocks help you. They're not necessarily a prop. They're more of a helping hand. Exhale, draw back. Prop implies dependency. Sometimes it's used as a negative, slightly pejorative connotations. Oh, you can't quite do it, so have a prop. And that's not necessarily true. Maybe you can do it really well, but if you add in a block or you add in some extra help, some extra support, you find that pose will unlock some of its secrets for you, reveal itself in a slightly different way. Inhaling to come forward, exhaling to come back. This time as you come back, square off the hips, keep drawing that left hip back. See if you can lengthen the spine a little bit more and then fold. Inhale back into your lunge. Press the hands into the mat, release back to child's pose. Exhale, sit back. So from here, we're going to cross the feet at the ankles and come to a seated position, stretching the legs out in front in Dandasana. So sit as upright as you can, lengthening the crown away from the tailbone, and then draw your right leg in. Give it a hug, try and sit as upright as you can. Now you're going to take that right leg across the body, baby cradle. We've done this a few times. So take your hands underneath your shin, opening the hip and flexing the foot. Sit up as tall as you can, and then just gently cradle your baby here. So we're just opening up the hip. Flex through the left foot to give you some stability. So if you want to advance, in inverted commas, the pose, you can take the foot into the crook of your left arm, take your arm round the side and draw the shin a little bit closer to your chest without slipping back. Now here what you want to watch is that you're not drawing out and stretching the outside of the knee here. You want to keep flexing your little toe towards your knee to keep that knee joint stable. And that's important. And then, if you want more still, you can lift the foot a little higher. The idea is that you're cradling a baby and you want to get your baby's head higher than its bottom or than its feet. If you want to nibble your toenails while you're here, I can't see. So whichever version of the pose you're in, we're going to move from here and bring that right heel into the left hip crease. Now, if you feel this too much in the knee, if you've got a knee problem here, any history of knee sensitivity, then take another option, which is Janu Shirsasana, where you bring the foot into the inner thigh. Otherwise, we're working into Ardha Baddha Paschimottanasana. So sitting up straight, and you're drawing the heel in here as you might do if you were in lotus position. If you've got lotus position in your practice, you won't find this difficult. Others of you may. So from here, we're going to fold forward towards the lengthened leg, either in Janu Shirsasana or in this pose. If you're in this pose and you want the bind, you take your right arm up to the ceiling, you stretch it towards the opposite foot, then you take it round the back of the body and maybe find your foot. If you find your foot with your right hand, I seem to have found quite a lot of hair too, then that's fine. Otherwise, you can keep it in your left hand. We inhale together and we're going to fold towards that lengthened leg. So this is Ardha Baddha Paschimottanasana. This is a slightly more challenging pose for some. Others of you may not find it challenging at all. But we should all be challenged in our postures. Every posture should contain a mixture of sthira and sukha. effort and ease. The effort is to corral the mind, to be present in what you're doing and in your breath, to restrain the ego so that you don't overdo it or injure yourself. Inhale to come up, release the bind if you've got it. Wherever you are, release the foot gently, send it away. And we're going to just point and flex a couple of times, especially for the sake of that right knee. Left leg comes in, sitting as upright as you can, nice and tall here. Take the foot across the body. So you can stop here if that's enough for your baby cradle. Otherwise, if you can get your hands under your shins, draw the shin up towards your chest as you rock your baby. Same options as on the other side. If you're taking the foot into the crook of the elbow, then watch that little toe. Keep drawing it back towards the knee so that you don't compromise the knee joint. If your knee doesn't like the twist, don't do it. And recognize in your body the difference between just a tiny bit of muscular resistance, a bit of sleepiness, a bit of gentle reluctance, resistance to the stretch, and definitely recognize its evil cousin, pain, which is not really an evil cousin. It's a messenger to the brain that tells you now would be a really good time to stop. And you'd be wise to heed that. So from here, take the foot into the inner thigh for Janu Sirsasana and fold towards the extended leg, or same thing. You can try and bring the heel into the hip crease here, sitting as upright as possible if you want the bind. Restrain your ego. You may have got it on one side, you may not get it in the other side. Left hand stretches towards the right foot, it comes around, and maybe fingers find the foot, or maybe no idea where the foot is. Inhale and lengthen. Flex through the foot. And exhale as you fold. If you're in Janu Sirsasana, you may already be in the fold. So listen. If you start to feel complaining from that knee, then just take it back a notch. So if you're in Ardha Baddha Paschimottanasana, you may be not able to fold as deeply as you would in Janu Sirsasana, partly because this is actually in the way. And also partly because, in my case, my knee's saying that's enough. When you're ready to come out of it, just take that leg gently forward, point and flex a couple of times. Now swing the knees around to the side. We're coming back into all fours. And from all fours, I'm going to press up into downward facing dog. So press your heels towards the floor if you can. Take your hips high towards the ceiling. Take the weight out of your wrist by pressing down into your finger pads. Inhale, bend the knees, deeply press your chest more towards your thighs, and then as you straighten your legs, see if you can keep your chest there. Really nice stretch. Dog waking up in the morning. So from here, inhale, bend both knees, send your right foot up to the ceiling, send your left heel back down to the mat. And as you exhale, draw that right knee to your chest and hover in 3/4 plank. So if this is too much, bring that knee straight down to the floor. Otherwise, we're going to hold it for a couple of breaths. And now from here, we're going to take the right foot underneath the left armpit, spin round on that left foot so it comes all the way flat to the mat, and then stretch your arm up. So this is fallen star or fallen triangle. Now remember to press through both feet. That's going to take the weight out of that arm. Lift your hips high if you can. Inhale to replace the arm. Draw the knee into the chest and exhale as you come back into your three-legged dog. Drop the foot to the floor. You can stay and work your downward dog, or inhale to all fours and exhale to child's pose. Take your time, work with your own breath. Then inhaling to come back and exhaling back into downward dog. So some of you are still in your downward dog. That's grand. Keep working your chest towards your thighs. Inhale, left leg up to the ceiling, right heel down towards the mat. Draw that knee towards your chest and hover in 3/4 plank. Again, you can drop that left knee if it's too much. Don't be a martyr. If you're hating it, don't do it. And then from there, the left leg comes under. Spin onto the whole of the right foot. Take the right fingertips up to the sky. Lift the hips. Open the heart. Connect with your breath. If you're finding it strenuous, make sure you're not holding your breath. One more breath here. Then we inhale. Come back. Knee comes back into chest. We come into three-legged dog. Then we draw that foot down, downward dog. Inhale, all fours. Exhale into child's pose. From here, back to downward facing dog. Lift that right leg high. Exhale, draw your right leg forward. We're in lunge. Now bring your left heel down, warrior one. So your left foot is at a 45-degree angle, hips are square to the front. Lift the arms if you can. Inhale and sink more deeply into warrior one. From here, clasp the hands behind, open the chest, and as you exhale, draw your crown down towards the floor. So tuck your chin in, look towards your back foot, and drop the head. Keep drawing the inner thighs together, so you're not going to allow that front knee to flop open to the side. Maybe lift the arms a little higher for a slightly more intense stretch. Inhale, bring the hands to the floor, lift the back heel, soften both knees, bring the back leg forward into Uttanasana, forward fold. Inhale, bend the knees, take the right leg back now into lunge, bring the right heel down and lift up into warrior one. Inhale, exhale, find the depth in the pose, square off the hips. Take the arms out to the side, bring your palms together, lift your chest, press your palms together, and come down into Baddha. What did I say before? It's Baddha Virabhadrasana. So if I said something else, that was wrong, sorry. Bound warrior, humble warrior. Draw the belly in, look towards the back foot. Inhale, draw the knuckles down as you lift the chest up. Release the hands, frame the foot. Take the front foot back, and we're coming into downward facing dog. So now from downward facing dog, lift your right foot high into three-legged dog. And as you exhale, lunge forward and drop the back knee. Take both hands inside your right foot. We're coming into Uttan Prasthasana or lizard pose. So here's where a block might be handy. You can bring the block underneath your forearms, or you can stay up on your hands, or you may be able to bring your forearms down without the block. If you do that, watch that you're not leaning over to one side. Draw your inner forearm down as much as your other. Keep the knee lifted if you can. So if you want to challenge yourself into Hanumanasana, you can take the hands either side of that front foot and have a go at lengthening out that front foot. Here the blocks could be useful. Again, that's going to enable you to find more lift, less heaviness in the pose perhaps. Use your breath. Find humility in the pose. And when you're ready to come out of it, you'll probably find that half the floor comes with you. That always happens. If you're in lizard or you're just coming out of Hanumanasana, take one hand either side of that front leg. Gently, gently, gently draw that leg back and come into child's pose. We've got that to do on the other side. Come forward onto all fours. Exhale into downward facing dog. Inhale, lift the left foot high. And exhale as you draw forward. So we're in a low lunge here. You can stay in lunge. You can come into lizard, which means bringing your left hand inside your front leg, using the blocks or not using the blocks. If you're coming down, however low you're coming down, make sure your shoulders stay level. It's a real tendency to roll over here. Oh, I'm in the pose. Well, you kind of are, but it'd be better if you could keep the shoulders level. Draw the chest forward. So again, you've got the option of trying Hanumanasana. If you know it's not for you, don't go there. But if you think, well, we've done quite a lot of leg warming up, which we have, maybe my body will take me there this morning. Maybe it won't. Maybe one side would, maybe the other side won't. Observe your body and your progress, such as it is, without judgment. And you may not have an accurate view of your progress anyway. It's not measured in poses. It's measured in the calmness of your mind. It's measured by your reaction to challenging situations and circumstances. Breathe. So if you're in Hanumanasana, find your way out of it. If you're in lizard, take that inner hand and take it the other side of your front foot. And then gently, gently, gently slide that foot back. And we're coming into child's pose. Take one more deep breath here. And then come forward onto all fours. Tuck the toes, walk your hands back in towards your knees, and then bring your feet to the floor. Lift your hips high to the ceiling in forward fold. Hold here for a moment, maybe cupping the elbows here to find some depth in the pose. Then inhale, bend your knees deeply, take your arms up and overhead, and bring your hands to your heart center. So, from here, we're coming into Vrikshasana, tree pose. Really nice sometimes to do balances at the end of class when you've really worked on your mind to see if you can find some calmness in the pose. So Vrikshasana, we slide the right foot up the calf, or you can leave your toes on the floor, or you can bring your foot to the inner thigh. Those of you who really enjoyed Ardha Baddha Paschimottanasana can take your heel right up into your hip crease. Probably need to hold it there, especially if you've got slippery trousers. Maybe if you don't need to hold it there, you can take your hands up above your head. Same with tree pose. Take your hands up if you'd like to, or bring them to your heart center if you prefer. Find your ekagrata, find your spot of stillness, and focus on that. Calming the mind. Couple more breaths here. And then gently release that foot from wherever it is. Maybe move the hips a little. Just a gentle knee bend in case you've locked out the standing knee, which sometimes happens. Left foot, slide it up to wherever is comfortable for you. You can hold it here if you need to, or if you want to try Ardha Baddha Paschimottanasana, the upright version, holding onto the foot, or maybe the foot will stay. No, I don't think it will. Hand can come up. One hand, both hands, hand to heart, whatever feels right for you. Find your point of focus, find your balance. If your balance isn't with you today, toes can stay on the floor. If you're wobbling, it may be because your mind's distracted, or it may just be that your standing legs had enough and you need to listen to that. And then wherever you are, gently slide that foot down. We're going to finish in standing Shavasana today. So either with your hands at your heart or with them loosely by your sides. Feet at hip distance apart, I invite you to close your eyes and focus on your breath. Slight softness in the knees, slight tuck in the tailbone maybe. Length from crown to tail. Inhaling and exhaling deeply. So it is now 8 o'clock. If you're going about your business now, have a fruitful, productive day. Have a wonderful weekend when it comes, and I hope that you will join me again on Tuesday and Thursday next week. If you're able to stay here for a moment longer, connecting with your breath, then please do so. Namaste.